Welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I am your host, Brenda Reese. Today, we're going to be talking about something I feel is tender, something that many women feel but may not always have words for. We are talking about the pressure of trying to be the mom you didn't have. Now, maybe that sentence lands for you right away, because maybe you grew up with a mother who was emotionally unavailable. I did. Maybe your mother was critical, overwhelmed, controlling, unpredictable, shut down, absent, grieving, addicted, or simply unable to give you the emotional safety that you needed. Or maybe your mother loved you, but she didn't know how to nurture you in the way your heart needed. And somewhere along the way, maybe you made a quiet promise to yourself. I will be different. I will listen. I will be present. I will not hurt my children the way I was hurt. I will give them what I never got. And that promise may have come from love, but it may also have become pressure. Do you feel any pressure? Pressure to never get angry? Pressure to always understand? Pressure to always be emotionally available? Pressure to be the safe place you didn't have? Pressure to heal your own wounds while also trying not to pass them on? That was a promise I tried to make for myself. And that is a lot for one woman to carry. So today, I want to talk about that hidden pressure. Not so that we can blame our mothers. I know there's healing work around that can be done. It's not about blaming our mothers, and it's not about blaming ourselves. It's so that we can bring compassion and truth into the places where we have been trying so hard. Because maybe you're not failing as a mom. Maybe you've been trying to mother your children, your inner child, and your past all at the same time. So, sheesh, no wonder you're tired. You're tired. I get it. You know, I got to be with my mom until I think about 5. She was a stay-at-home mom until got divorced from my dad. And after that, it was like something was severed. You know, I was with her all the time, and then I wasn't. She was no longer available because she had to go back to work, and she had 3 kids, and then she remarried, and then there was 9 kids. And somewhere I got lost in the shuffle, and you've heard that story. And I learned I didn't like that. I felt invisible. I acted out a lot to get attention. That didn't go so well, by the way. And I felt like I didn't matter. I acquired a lot, of beliefs and patterns from this period of time. And so she also later, had her own depression and anxiety, and she was addicted to pharmaceuticals, and we went through different things. And I became a mom young. I was still in high school, my senior year when I got pregnant, and then got married. And the one thing, even though I was still pretty much a child, I still wanted my kids to feel seen and heard and understood. I wanted to be emotionally available for them, and I wasn't able to do that all the time. I found a career, and I was putting myself towards that. I went back to school, and I didn't keep that promise to myself. So sometimes we don't follow through with what we promise, or so we feel pressure for that. And then we also feel pressure from the promises that we did make, like being available all the time. I see this in clients where they're so available to their children that they have no time for themselves, that they are feeling like they can't mess up, they can't make a mistake. And that was part of my deal. I didn't want my kids to see all that. But then I ended up drinking to cover up my emotions, and it just spiraled. So this so-called promise that I made to myself ended up coming from a place of pain and a wound versus a place of healing. And so that's why this topic today is really important to me, because I get to watch, my kids parent differently. I get to watch clients do things differently. And because we have more awareness today that we didn't have back then. So I want you to know that I see you and that I get it. And that's why this topic is super important. So yes, we're tired. And there is something that we can do, because the women, there's so many of us who didn't receive the emotional nurturing that we needed growing up, can become deeply intentional mothers, right? They read the books. They listen more closely, like I just talked about. They try to apologize. They want to break patterns and cycles. That's what I wanted. They wanted their children to feel seen, heard, valued, and loved. I did. And that is beautiful. But then, like I just talked about, sometimes underneath that beautiful intention is fear. Fear of becoming your mother. And I kind of did. Fear of repeating the pattern. And I did. Fear of damaging your child. I'm not sure I damaged them, but there were some regrets there. That's why I am so drawn to the forgiveness work. There's fear that one reactive moment means you've failed. I have felt that for a long time. Fear that your child's pain means you didn't do enough. That happened with me. And when fear is driving motherhood, even loving choices can feel heavy, because you're no longer just responding to the child in front of you. You're also responding to the child inside of you. That's why I love the work of the inner family and the inner child. Because my inner child, right, was the one who wasn't heard. She wasn't comforted. She had to be good. She had to be quiet, strong, responsible, pleasing, and perfect. Have you felt that? So when your child has a big emotion, not your inner child, but your actual child has a big emotion, it might activate something old in you. When your child pulls away, you may feel abandoned. When your child is angry, you may feel like you're bad. When your child struggles, you may feel responsible for fixing it. I know I did. When your child says, "You don't understand," it may touch the part of you that never felt understood either. And suddenly, it's not just this moment, it's every moment. It's your past and their present colliding. And this is why motherhood can feel so emotionally intense for women who are also healing from their own childhood wounds. It's not because you're weak. It's because the relationship matters so much to you. And the wounds, they are tender. So here's something I would like to say gently. Trying to be different from your mother can be another version of perfectionism. That's what I found. And then I ended up doing the opposite. It didn't work so well until later, and I had to make amends, which was good. And I had some repair to do, and that was okay, right? So trying to be different from your mom can be just a different form of perfectionism. You may tell yourself, I can't lose my patience. I can't be emotionally unavailable. I can't disappoint them. I can't say the wrong thing. I can't need too much. I can't let them see me struggle. Any of those sound familiar? But being a different kind of mother does not mean being a perfect mom. It means being a more conscious mother, a more honest mother, a more repair capable mother, A mother who can say, honey, I didn't handle that well. I am so sorry. I'm learning too. I love you and I want to understand. Can I ask you a question? Or I need a moment to calm myself before we continue. Now, that sounds very different from what you received, right? I know it is for me. And sometimes that, my friend, is what breaks the cycle. Not perfection, repair, presence, humility, awareness, the ability to come back and say, hey, can we try again? If you grew up in a home where no one apologized, then your apology is powerful. If you grew up in a home where feelings were dismissed, then your willingness to listen is powerful. If you grew up in a home where love was conditional, then your effort to love without control is powerful. Yet, you are still human. You will still have moments. You will still have limits. And you will still get tired. And it is okay for your children to know that you are human. That does not make you unsafe. In fact, when done with ownership and care, it can model something incredibly healing. That love includes imperfection. That relationships can include repair. That people make mistakes and can still be connected. So let's talk about a few things you can do if you notice yourself carrying the pressure to be the mom you didn't have. You know I like steps, right? So step number 1, name the promise you made. Okay, so this could be the promise that you made years ago, maybe even as a child, right? If you were going through abuse or neglect or abandonment, maybe you made a promise that it was going to be different. So this is a question I want you to ask yourself. What did I promise myself I would never do as a mother? Maybe it's I promised I would never yell. I promised I would never ignore my child's feelings. I promised I would never make my child feel alone. I promised I would never be controlling. I promised I would always be available. I promised I would give them everything I didn't get. That's a big one. And I want you to think about something as you ask yourself this and be really honest with yourself. The more specific you can be, the more relief we can have. Okay. So after you think about this promise that you made, that just think about what, maybe you don't have a specific one that came to mind, but what do your actions tell you that you may have promised yourself? Because after you think about that, I want you to ask yourself, has this promise become pressure? Because sometimes what begins as protection becomes a prison. The promise may have helped you become more aware, but if the promise now requires you to be perfect, then it may need to soften just a bit, or a lot, like in my case. You can honor this intention without carrying the impossible standard that you have learned to hold for yourself and others. Something that you could say to yourself would be, I still want to be a loving, conscious mother, and I release the belief that I must be perfect to be different. That sentence alone can just create some space, right? Let's say that again. I still want to be a loving, conscious mother, and I release, or you can say, and I'm willing to release the belief that I must be perfect to be different. And you can even add that I must be perfect to be different than my own mother. Whatever feels true for you, And the way that you can see if it feels true is if your body goes, if it tenses up, then let's try some other words. Okay. Now, step 2, notice when your inner child enters the room. No, this does not mean you're doing anything wrong. I have kids, there's so many parts of me that have popped up during this period of time, especially in the forgiveness work. Because before the forgiveness work, I wasn't aware of what was happening. This inner child, this 5-year-old or 8-year-old, 14-year-old, 20-year-old would pop up. And I would be a little out of control. I would overreact. I would cry for no reason. And I think I've told this story before, how when I went into this grocery store, I was activated by something. I don't know what, but I couldn't find cinnamon. This way. I couldn't find it. And I started to cry. You think that's a little overreaction? Yeah. And it was interesting. I had to leave. And then I calmed myself in the car. I didn't know, this is before the work. I didn't know, but I was like, what is happening? I didn't have the tools that I have today. And then I go back in and I was trying to figure it out again. And I could feel myself start to cry. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't realize that it was a pattern. It was a belief of mine that I always had to figure things out because of my childhood, because of my mom's emotional unavailability and the things. I was put into a parenting position and an adult position at too young of an age. And I couldn't figure things out. Well, that part of me was reacting. So finally I took a breath and I found someone to help me find it. And that gave me so much relief. Well, that had happened several times in my life. And once I started the forgiveness work, I realized, that's that part of me. And that's why I really love this work, the inner child or inner children, because we don't just have one. It means a lot, right? So when I say it simply means that something is old is being activated, then that's really important, because you may feel like I just talked about that this reaction feels bigger than the moment, right? Do you cry over not finding cinnamon? Right? I can laugh now at it. At the time, it was really intense. Or maybe your child says something small, but your body responds as if you're being rejected. Or maybe your adult child doesn't call and you feel abandoned, right? Left out. Maybe your child criticizes you and you feel like you're back in your childhood home trying to prove your worth. That's what a lot of us have. But when that happens, one of the tools you can use, pause, which I didn't have in that grocery store at the time, was how old do I feel right now? Now, this question can be super powerful. Do you have examples of when you have overreacted? And if you would have had this question, it may have helped. Because I know you've heard this before and you've read it, you've heard it, it's been around for a while. I learned this in therapy years ago, right about the same time, I think, as I was starting the forgiveness training. And I still use it today because I still get activated. But today I catch it a lot quicker because now I know. So think about that. If you're like a 55-year-old, but in that moment, the number 8 pops up, like, how old do I feel right now? And whoosh, 8 pops up. It's not about right now. It's about something that happened before. Because remember, our memories don't have time. They just respond, or actually react. And that younger part of you doesn't need you to react. She may need you to turn towards her, right? Turn towards the inner child. Because you could say quietly to her, to yourself, I see you. I know this feels familiar. You are not alone right now, or ever. We are safe enough to pause. We don't have to respond from this wound. Now, this is not about ignoring the child in front of you. It's about caring for the part of you that is being activated so you can respond from your adult self. This is self-leadership. This is healing. Now, step 3, redefine what breaking the cycle really means. Okay, breaking the cycle does not mean your children will never hurt. It does not mean they will never struggle. It does not mean they will never have feelings about your parenting, because trust me, they will. It does not mean you will never make a mistake. Breaking the cycle means you are willing to become aware. It means you are willing to take responsibility for your part. And that's what these tools are for, right? Is helping us be self-leaders so that we can take responsibility for our part, not everybody else's. Okay. And it means you are willing to repair whenever possible. It means you are willing to do your own inner work, like I talked about, instead of making your own children carry it for you. So many of us adult women have had things put upon us that weren't ours to carry. Now, it also means you are willing to stop pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Come on now. And sometimes breaking the cycle sounds like, when you're talking to your children, I can hear that this hurt you. I want to understand. Can I ask you a question? I need to sit with what you're saying. I am so sorry. I'm learning how to do this differently. Now that right there, those are cycle breaking. It doesn't have to look dramatic. And it may not look perfect for those of us recovering perfectionists, but it is powerful. And I'd like you to hear me on this. You can be the mother who breaks the cycle and still have things to forgive yourself for. Both can be true, two truths. We can hold two truths at the same time. You can be conscious and imperfect. You can be loving and learning. You can be deeply committed and still tired. You can be different from your mother without becoming superhuman. Now, step 4 is mothering yourself. Yeah. This is the part that many of us women skip. It took me a long time to get the mothering myself down. It took the forgiveness work to really help me put all these things together. Us women become so focused on giving our children what we didn't receive that we forget there is still a part of us that needs mothering. You know, you may be giving comfort, but not receiving comfort. You may be creating safety, but not feeling safe inside yourself. You may be validating everyone else's feelings, but still judging your own. You may be trying to become the mother you needed, yet never turning that mothering energy inward. So take a moment and ask yourself, what do I still need to hear? This goes back to, what is my unmet need, right? Maybe you need to hear, you don't have to earn love, my sweetheart. You're allowed to rest. Your feelings matter too. You don't have to hold everyone together. You are not too much. That's a big one. You are not failing. You, my love, are allowed to be cared for. This is where self-forgiveness and self-mothering meet. Because the part of you that feels guilty may also be the part of you that is desperate to be reassured. Not excused, reassured, held, reminded that you are still worthy of love. So as we close today, I want to invite you to think about this question. What pressure have I been carrying because I was trying so hard to be different. Just notice. Notice what comes up. Maybe you've been trying to be endlessly patient. Maybe you've been trying to never disappoint anyone. Maybe you've been trying to make sure your children never feel pain. Maybe you've been trying to heal your entire family line through your parenting. And maybe today you can let yourself say, I honor how hard I've tried. I honor the promises I made from love, not fear. And I release the pressure to be perfect. Or for some of us, we start with, and I am willing to release the pressure to be perfect. You do not have to become the mother you never had by abandoning yourself. You do not have to prove your love through exhaustion. You do not have to erase every mistake to be a good mother. You are allowed to be a mother who is still healing, a mother who is still learning, who can tell the truth, a mother who can repair, and a mother who can forgive herself. And maybe, just maybe, being the mom you didn't have begins with being kinder to the woman you are now. Thank you for our time together today. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with someone who may be carrying this hidden pressure too. And remember, you're not failing. You may be simply carrying too much. And until next time, take care, my friend.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.